We have to go back to the stay in Mexico policy. I mean, I think that was the stalwart of where all this began. We had Central American countries that had bought into this, that they folks to seek asylum in the country of entry rather than transgressing across all of Central America. You know, I've worked in some really desperate places in the world as a surgeon, so I understand people's desire to try to find something better. That said, we are a nation of laws. Unlike the last 2 years, our border has become lawless. We don't have the operational control of our southern border. Drug cartels do. So we have to keep those who want in this country, they want to keep in Mexico. We have to get rid of the control of the border by drug cartels. We have to ensure safety to our own border and really adjudicate the processes a lot quickly. We have to make sure that those who do have true asylum desires, that they get adjudicated much more quickly, and then we have to beef up security. You know, we've had, 8+ million individuals come in the country over the last 2 years. We have close to, I think it was 1.7 million individuals come. We don't know who they are, where they're from, where they're going, why they're here, and the record number of individuals who were caught on the terrorist watch list. We don't even know who the ones who've gotten away because they're going to seek other methods to get in anyway. So this is not only a humanitarian crisis, it's one that the president and his administration have broken our own laws. It's also one of national security, even more importantly. So this has to be done. It almost takes primal immediacy above almost anything else. And you get into the debate with Ukraine. Mm-hmm. It almost has to take precedence over that because we have to protect our own border really before we worry about other countries.
Well, the president is at the table now. He's been involved in these negotiations. He put out a statement late Friday that said what the negotiators are working on would give him the authority to shut down the border if it was becoming overwhelming. He says he would use that authority on day one after signing this bill. Do you take him at his word on that?
He had the authority right now. He doesn't need authority. He could have the authority to stay in Mexico policy. Boom. He had this authority when he was sworn in. And so he basically invited our countries to be invaded because that's nonsense from President Biden. He has the authority right now to do this.
So when it comes to the fate of this package in the House, do you think you will even have a chance to vote on it up or down?
I have to see what it really entails because I haven't seen the text yet, as they pointed out. We want something, but honestly, Joe Biden has the tools right now to close the border or close it appreciably.
Well, you haven't seen the text. The Speaker of the House hasn't seen the text either. And already, just based on the rumors that were floating around, he said it's dead on arrival. And we know that he has a close relationship with the former president. The former president has thoughts on this. How does Donald Trump factor into this calculus?
Well, I think, honestly, we have to see what's going on because, you know, it's presumed nominee that Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee. This is going to be a factor because this is one of the biggest things that all Americans now care about, not just in Texas or Arizona, but they care about it up in New York City and other places, about the absolute explosion of this humanitarian crisis. And Kailey, to be very honest with you, this was one caused by certain releasings of policy by the Biden administration. We should not be where we were. We weren't this way 2.5 years ago. We have to get back to some sensible things about immigration within this country.
Well, when you talk about how immigration is an issue, not just at the border, but in states really all across the country, it's been described to me as every state now is a border state. Absolutely. Because of the way this is spread around. What justification would there be to not bring it to the floor, to not give members like you even a chance to cast their votes on an issue that is so important to voters? Well,
I don't disagree with that thought, but I think it's also up to the Speaker that he be involved in this process. Mm-hmm. It's not just won by the Senate and do with the White House. And remember, there is another chamber. We are the ones who are considered in the House to be, quote, closest to the people. This is a people issue, and I think it needs to be not debated or guaranteed in silent. It needs to be festered. Especially, we have a new Speaker of the House. He needs to be intimately involved in these negotiations.
Yeah, and there's questions as to how the Speaker is not just going to deal with potentially bringing this issue to the floor, but also a vote on a tax agreement. I know, sir, that you sit on the Ways and Means Committee. Yeah. Obviously, this is bipartisan. It's bicameral. Would it have your support if you had a chance to vote on it this week or next?
Well, we had a 40-3 vote in the committee. I voted for it in committee. Is it perfect? No. There are some things that I may have recommended differently. I think if we bring it to the floor, I think it would pass just on a suspension vote. We're going to have some folks having problems because it didn't have the SALT issues with it. Some of the others who vote against everything, seemingly, this Congress are going to vote against it. But I think it may have a good chance of passing as a suspension. We need to do something in the tax realm because of expiring tax provisions from TCJA that are really going to be helping American business, especially small businesses. I'll give you an example. With the, quote, Inflation Reduction Act, this really absolutely destroyed pharmaceutical industries from being able to take new drugs and bring new indications for drugs along the line. You know, it was thought CBO said maybe one drug would be taken out because of all this price shifting. It's actually been more than 100. And these are days of new cures. You know, in medicine, I've practiced now for 35 years. It's been an explosion in the last 5 or 10 years of new drugs and new therapies. And so many of those now have come to a screeching halt because of the rules within the Inflation Reduction Act. But if we're able to get these companies started back up again, we're going to go back to making land-breaking and really world-breaking cures for many different things, cancers and other disorders.
Well, so obviously there's a lot in this agreement. As you point out, there's a lot that's not in it either. Yeah. Maybe not getting the SALT action that some would like. Others are taking issue with the expansion of the child tax credit. Yeah. Do you think any of these issues are enough that this bill stands a real chance of not getting through the House? Because the suspension of the rules is a decision the Speaker will have to make.
Sure. And I think that's a fair criticism of this. You know, we live in a divided Congress with a one-seat majority. We don't own the Senate. We don't own the White House. And if we want to get a tax package out, there has to be negotiation and compromise. Do I think 2,500 should be the bottom part? Absolutely not. I mean, absolutely not. Should I think that we have persons' 1 year income being able to count for the next? No. But then again, you know, this is all negotiated. Do I think $400,000 really? I think we actually probably should lower that. I don't see a couple making $400,000 needs assistance with their kids. But again, this is negotiation. And you know, this is one of the, I've only been in politics, I guess now 7 years now. In the effort, we can't make everything perfect. It's not going to be perfect because we don't have supermajorities in either chamber. We don't have the White House. We have to make compromises. And so, yeah, sometimes there are some things in there you don't want. But if you look at the bigger picture, I think there's a lot more positives than negatives.
And of course, in addition to sitting on Ways and Means, where you are very hands-on with this issue, you also are a member of the Veteran Affairs Committee. So I know you pay close attention to matters regarding the U.S. military. And of course, we had news over the weekend, 3 U.S. troops killed in Jordan in a drone strike by an Iranian-backed militant group. The U.S. has vowed to respond. Yeah. What do you think that response should look like?
You know, Kailey, I come from a very strong military district. We have Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point, other military bases. 1 out of 10 of my constituents are veterans. And in dealing with Iran, in dealing with these axis really truly of evil, as Reagan said, the only thing that they know is power. The only thing they know is strength. And this is what we have to show. You know, of course, Iran has said they didn't have to do anything with this. No one can trust the Ukrainians, no one at all. I don't trust them at all. We have to show them power. I do believe a lot of the strength we lost in the way we left Afghanistan and the Middle East. And so it's time for Biden to step up. We have to go after these folks. We have to go with the origin of them. We have to take out their leaders. We have to take out their ability to kill Americans.
There have been some senators, John Cornyn, Lindsey Graham, for example, who have said strike Iran directly on its own territory. Do you think that would be too far?
Just on first thought, I think that may be a little bit. We're not ready for that yet because here we are trying to keep Israel alive. There's China's threat with this in the southeast with Taiwan. Our utter disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, in my opinion, led to the Ukrainian conflict. I think that that's going to be difficult. Sadly enough, you know, during the Trump administration, the enrichment of uranium in Iran was around 4%. We know Iran has now gotten it up to at least 60%. Some reports have been 80%. Once they get 90%,
well, he left that nuclear deal with Iran.
Yeah, but the thing is, that gave them all of the cards. It gave them all the cards, and so now Iran may very well have a nuclear bomb. And so, you know, I understand that sentiment, but I think a lot of thought needs to go into before that happens.